We're back, and today we're going to be doing numbers 15, 14, and 13 of our Amazing Race winner rankings.
So this is very exciting. We are in the top 15 winning teams now. No one-leg champions anymore. Done with those. These are all teams that have won multiple legs, and we have just a lot of really good teams coming up.
We do. Starting off with number 15, we have Jason and Amy, who won season 23 and 2 legs.
Yes, they did. So Jason and Amy, so they were a couples team, and they ended up with a lot of second place finishes.
Six to be exact.
6 second place finishes. And so they kind of kept getting more and more frustrated as the race went along, justifiably so.
Yeah.
And yet, they won the end.
They
ended up winning.
did.
They finished first when it mattered most.
Those second place finishes really helped their racing average, which was like amazing.
Yeah, they had a crazy high race average.
Yeah.
So they're a really strong team overall, even though they didn't necessarily win a ton of legs before winning the final.
And they did help their alliance members, Nicole and Travis, probably more than they had to. So that was part of some of the things that kind of set them back and had them not win as many legs as they could have.
Yeah, it was a really interesting relationship between those two teams. Nicole and Travis kind of started out pretty strong, but as the race went on, they relied more and more on Jason and Amy, and especially Amy, to help out during challenges.
Yeah.
To the point where I think Jason even started getting a little bit frustrated with Amy for taking away from their momentum to help out another team, especially as it got really close to the end. But when you consider that they also were helping this other team, that makes their win even more impressive, I think.
Yeah, and something we have talked about in previous rankings is that we have always found very impressive is that Amy did do more roadblocks, with Amy doing 7 and Jason doing 6, and we always love to see that.
Yeah, that's again pretty rare with a mixed gender couple, and we saw it with TK and Rachel, and we see you here again with Jason and Amy, so well done, Amy.
Yeah. They were a very nice team. They were supportive of each other, and they were friendly to the other teams.
Yeah, they're just a really good couple, I think. I think you could really see that, and you kind of knew that this was a pretty solid relationship from the beginning, and they used that to help, I think, get them to the end.
Yes, they were a very strong team, like we have mentioned, with all their second places and their 2 legs that they won, while also just getting like fairly high placement in the other legs.
Right, and they were physically strong too.
Yeah.
Both of them were in a really good condition, really muscular, and that helped them a lot too.
Mm-hmm. They did beat some really strong teams with Tim and Marie, Nicole and Travis, and Leo and Jamal.
And of course, their main rivals were Tim and Marie.
Yes.
And they had a really good rivalry there. Tim and Marie at one point stole their taxi and just drove off away with it. And Jason and Amy were left high and dry, but they kept their wits about them and still were able to eventually win the whole race. But there were some harsh words between Jason and Tim at that particular pit stop on that leg.
Yeah, with Tim and Marie just throwing their stuff out of their cab and stealing it.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty exactly what they did, yeah.
But moving on to number 14, we have Kim and Penn. They won season 33 and 5 legs.
Right, so these on paper, they look like a pretty dominant team.
Yeah. They were very, very supportive of each other, and that was really nice to watch.
Right, especially talking about Kim's struggles with anxiety, and Penn was very supportive of her and supportive of her when she confronted her fear of heights. So that was really nice to see.
And Penn talking about his ADHD, that was really cool to see on the race, because most times reality TV stars or just influencers like they were would just kind of hide that from the camera.
Absolutely, yeah. So they kind of were upfront about it and showed that you can still be very successful.
Yeah, and they were super fans, especially Kim, who wrote down a bunch of stuff from the race to try to help them with the final challenge, which it did help them with the final challenge, and I always love seeing superfans run the race. So
it's so smart when teams take really good notes, and we've seen that in a few winners along the way. And certainly Kim was one of the best at that in terms of her notes were really specific and detailed.
Yeah. The last challenge was very close between them and Raquel and Kayla, who I love.
Right. I mean, Raquel and Kayla could have easily won that season and could have been our 4th all-women's champion, but it just was not to be, which was too bad, but good for Kim and Penn.
Yeah. They did beat some really good teams with Raquel and Kayla, who we just mentioned, and Ryan and Dusty.
Yeah, those really were the 3 top teams from the beginning. The only thing I guess we'd say in terms of that season was because some of the teams didn't come back, so that watered down the competition a little bit, but still certainly a well-earned victory.
Yes. Moving on to number 13, we have Ernie and Cindy. They won season 19 and 3 legs.
Yes, Ernie and Cindy from Chicago.
Yes.
So yeah, they're a pretty fun team actually.
Yeah.
And they won the season. They weren't necessarily the most likely team to win that season, but they pulled it out. So let's talk about Ernie and Cindy.
They were the first team to use the Express Pass and win the race.
Yes, they won in the very first leg, I believe.
I think so,
and then just used that momentum to carry them through victory. So they won the first leg, they won a leg during the race, and then they won the final leg.
Yes. They had a super fun and interesting dynamic, so you can elaborate on that.
Well, it was just really, it was interesting. I mean, because ordinarily you have in a man-woman team, the man wants to try to run the team, and sometimes the woman will go along with it, sometimes she'll kind of push back. But with Ernie and Cindy, Cindy was really the dominant person in the relationship, and she called the shots, and Ernie was totally cool about that, and it just was a nice sort of fresh kind of relationship to have on The Amazing Race, and it ended up working really well for them.
Yes. They beat Andy and Tommy, who were like amazing.
Andy and Tommy.
One of the best teams to never win, I would say.
Clearly, absolutely.
Yeah.
They won 6 legs and were really the dominant team of the season, but lost out in the 4th, I believe, going into the top 4. They almost made it into the final 3, but could not survive that leg right before that.
Yes, and they beat Imani and Marcus, who were just a really fun team to watch.
Absolutely, and Marcus always talking about his sports analogies and his football analogies because he was a former player. Just like any situation lent itself to a football metaphor, which was you'd think would be annoying, but was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, they knew each other really well, and that was really nice to see.
Yep, again, it was just one of those really strong relationships that you kind of felt confident about, just like with Jason and Amy in a way. And you never really had to worry that they were going to have a major meltdown because that's just not really the way they were wired.
Yes. Cindy did the final challenge, which was like really difficult.
Right.
They had to go on like this rappel thing on a giant map of the world and like put down the places they went to in the order.
Exactly. So Ernie would sort of call out the directions, and Cindy would rappel across this giant map and putting the locations in the right order. Really difficult sort of memory-wise, really difficult physically. It was just one of the toughest final challenges I think we've seen. And it was great that Cindy was the one who did the hard work of it.
They were a really rootable team, and it was just really fun to root for them throughout the race.
Definitely. I mean, again, this wasn't the dominant team of the season. That was Tommy and Andy. But when it came down to the end and when they won, it was like, we kind of wanted them to win the whole time because of just the kind of people that they were.
Yes. So stay tuned for our next one. If you thought that one of these teams should be last, or if you thought one of them should be number 1, post in the comments who we might be doing next. See if you can predict. And
yes, the teams are just going to be getting better and stronger and tougher, and it's going to be really fun.
So if you want to see who we rank as number 1, make sure to stay tuned.
All right. See you
Bye,
next time.
guys. Hey, y'all. We're back. And today we're going to be doing numbers 15, 14.
What in God's name is happening there?
Oh, my God.
All right, cut.